What's going on? Let's talk about the Brown Buffalo Conceal pack in the 21 liter size. I feel like this is a bag designed for some ex-special forces dude that is now working a chill corporate job where he travels occasionally for work, and deep down he's just waiting for a zombie apocalypse to happen. He almost thirsts for it, and he's just ready to go, trying to blend into that corporate world without drawing too much attention, but he's strapped and ready to go. Anyways, this bag has a cult-like following. It's designed and manufactured in small batch productions here in the US. Up until recently, the guy Douglas, who's the brain behind this, transitioned manufacturing overseas to Cambodia, and I know there's been some mixed feelings in the bag world around this when they moved away from the US, but honestly, I never experienced the Conceal before the refresh, so I can't speak to the quality, but from what I've gathered, the quality is completely on par, if not better, than what it was before. I'm curious from other people who have experienced both versions what your thoughts are, but I do know that the reality is that life has gotten more expensive, everything's gotten more expensive, and I'm sure that there's a lot of nuances that go into the decision-making process of taking things overseas and just ensuring that they're not making any compromises in terms of quality of materials, construction, while still trying to keep it at as accessible of a price point as possible, which at $300, it's still definitely on the premium price point for backpacks. Anyways, I'll share my experiences using the bag, highlighting the things I like the most about it, some nitpicks that I have with it. I'll pack it out just to give you an idea of what fits in here comfortably, a few different loadouts, and then ultimately I'll share my thoughts on who this bag is specifically designed for and who I think it will be most worth it for. My biggest positive takeaways with this bag are, first and foremost, how bomb-proof it is. It's really hard to use a different adjective for it. I think everyone will say the same thing, and it's for a reason, which I'll get into here in a second. Secondly, I was really pleasantly surprised by how comfortable this bag is, despite the weight, given its volume, and independently of the weight. I find that it's very comfortable, at least for my frame. And then lastly, is just the simplicity of the design and the fact that it's kind of like this blank canvas where you can be very creative in what precisely you want to use this bag for and how you want to create that experience for yourself. So starting off with a bomb-proof construction, a lot of that comes from the 1080D ballistic nylon shell that is all over this bag. You get really good structure, so essentially this bag looks the same whether it's empty or full, which I think for me, I don't mind it whatsoever. It also stands incredibly well because of that bomb-proof structure that you're getting. Beyond that, like these premium YKK zipper heads are like super duper chunky. This feels like a number 10 minimum. And then beyond that, you get Challenger sailcloth liner material, which feels fantastic. The mesh itself, I mean, there's nothing stretchy about it, but it feels like you could take a knife to it and you'd probably struggle just cutting through that mesh. All the details in the stitching, everything feels reinforced to a point that it's like almost overkill in a really delightful way. But yeah, I mean, this thing is an absolute tank in every single way possible. Second thing that I really appreciate about this bag is the comfort component. I think most of it just comes from the straps themselves. You get mesh padding, so helps with the breathability, but the contouring shoulder straps paired with just the squish factor. It's good padding, good support, but it's not overly squishy either. It's fall right now in Utah. I took it on a hike recently, not like a super long hike. Not that this is a bag that would be my first choice for a hike by any means, but gave it a whirl. And given its weight, it almost felt like it wasn't there. So To me, comfort is one of those things that truly elevates a bag. And when I think about the bags that I find myself naturally gravitating towards the most, they're typically the bags that I find the most comfortable. And then the last thing that is great about this bag is the simplicity. It kind of puts me in this minimal mindset when I'm using it. There's not a lot going on in terms of like pockets and organization, which is also one of my nitpicks, which I'll get to in a second. But you'll notice like on the inside of the bag, all of this is Velcro. Right now I have the laptop accessory, which I'll talk about as well in a moment, but it's really designed for it to be like this blank canvas where you can buy different Velcro strappable, like hook and loop or molly attachments that you can put in here and make it your own. Now, personally, the things that I carry, I don't know how much value it would add to me in that sense, but I know within the bag community, you've got your like tinkers that love to mod, customize every component of your bag. And I think this is one of those like niche audiences that it truly targets and that it will reward. And I think it's pleasantly refreshing seeing that in this bag where you typically don't in as many other bags on the market. Now, before I walk you through it, a few of the nitpicks that I have with it, I think this is a bag that so much of what I appreciate is the simplicity in its design. But on the other side of that coin is the fact that you don't get great quick access, especially for smaller things. So when I think about my sunglasses, AirPods, the things that I am getting in and out of a bag for quite regularly, I do like having a dedicated place where I can easily access them and they are snug wherever they are. Here, beyond the main compartment and then the rear multi-use laptop compartment slash concealed pocket slash whatever you want to throw in there, you got a front stash pocket, but this is really just another blank canvas in the sense that it is all Velcro backed. So you can get your attachment game on, but there's nothing else, right? So you would have to come up with an attachment system for those smaller things, which also adds on to the overall cost of the bag. I'm sure on Amazon, there's a lot of cost-effective options out there, but out of the box, there isn't an easy solution for those things. This is a good pocket for you to put things like heavy-duty gloves, beanie, over-the-ear headphones, or a tech pouch. I'll show you another place for it. But if you're doing a tech pouch, for those things that you're accessing a lot, it's still taking it out and then getting into the tech pouch to snag those things. Really, the only compartment that you have for smaller things is in the main compartment, but it's here. And so that's one zip and then two zips. I just think anytime you have to get into the main compartment and then do one more unzipping, I definitely don't consider that quick access. Second nitpick that I have with this bag is just, it's stated as a 21 liter bag. It's not so much about the volume because it could potentially be 21 liters. I know a lot of people in the bag community have taken a look, have maybe done their own measurements, and it looks and feels like it'd be something bigger, like in the 24 to 26 liter space. But even if it really is 21 liters, because there is no universal way of measuring it that's consistent across the way that different brands approach volume, it's just a really tall bag. So I am 5'8", 140 pounds. And for me personally, this bag just looks and feels too big for everyday carry. Just for perspective, right? Here is the 24 liter Air City Pack Pro 2, which suits me well from an everyday carry standpoint. I actually prefer the City Pack 2, not the Pro version, but I feel like anything beyond this, I'm starting to enter like, is that too bulky for everyday carry purely from how it looks on my body standpoint? But so much of that is like, if you compare the two, this one towers over it. Now, let me throw in like the Able Carry Max EDC, which is like 26 liters. I think from a height perspective, they are a lot closer there. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like who is measuring the volume right? But I think if you were to ask 100 people, hey, which bag is bigger or can store more? I mean, I think it's hard to say, but I don't think anyone would definitively say, oh, the Able Carry Max EDC would. I mean, like just looking at them from here, they look pretty similar. And because of the fact that this one has a lot more structure to it, when this one is empty, it doesn't look as bulky. So, and then lastly is the laptop access situation, specifically if you have a larger laptop, and I'll explain why. So there is two places where you could put a laptop. One is if you don't buy the laptop accessory for it, is back here, right? And I think if you have like a 13-inch, 14-inch, it goes in pretty easily, but this is a 16-inch MacBook Air. And like you have to angle it to put it in. It's not as hard putting it in, but I've just found that like taking it out, as you can see here, like it's fully unzipped. I think from the bottom, it's a little easier, but you definitely, like it's not effortless. You have to think about it. There is friction with the experience. So if you're carrying a bulkier laptop, you would think, okay, maybe I can just get the laptop accessory for it, which you absolutely can. But another, I guess, like issue, again, this is really not a bag that I would say is first and foremost designed for tech laptop carry. I think there's so many good options out there, but in this modern world, I think there's a lot of people that are gonna wanna be able to carry a laptop along with everything else. I think it is nice that you get a blank canvas and you're not forced into having a laptop compartment, because I know a lot of people like having the flexibility to have this wasted laptop sleeve or maybe put it on when they need it, with a small caveat that it is $55, so it adds a significant cost to the overall bag when you get that accessory. But a 16-inch MacBook Air fits really well in here. But one thing I've also found from an access standpoint, again, if I was mainly using this bag for like tech laptop carry, probably wouldn't be my first choice, because like getting in and out of the laptop isn't easy. As you can see, the main compartment zipper is towards the front of the bag. And so the issue with that is that when you open the bag and you want to get your laptop, and I think this really applies to laptops of all sizes, but the bigger it is, the more, is just like as I'm taking it out, right? This is like I'm sitting down awkwardly here, but you have to like pull the fabric back. So it's like a two-handed operation thing. Like I guess like you don't, yeah, you pretty much need to pull this fabric back. If not, you can't get it out. I no longer have a smaller laptop, which I miss at times, but yeah, that 13-inch would probably slide out a little bit more effortlessly. TLDR, if you have a big laptop, and that's a big reason for why you're getting this bag to carry it, I would maybe have some reservations around it if you are a weirdo like me, and like having friction in those experiences deters from the overall joy that you get from the bag. So with that being said, let me get into the bag itself. The bag itself, I think, has a little bit of a polarizing aesthetic. I like it a lot more looking at it than I do when it's on my back. If I was a lot bigger, then I think I would appreciate it as well on my back, just because of how tall it is, and I have like a shorter torso proportionate to my legs. But super simple design, 1080D ballistic nylon, and then you get like a reinforced flat structure here on the bottom, which helps with the overall standability of the bag. The logo itself is like matte black with a slightly more black branding, but you pretty much, unless like you're super close to it, can't tell what the brand of the bag is. You get a couple Hypalon attachment points here and here, as well as on this side. And then you get like a little metal loop if you want to throw your keys or like whatever else you might want to stick on that. incredibly, like, ridiculously over reinforced in kind of a good way, the grab handle here in the top. And then organization wise, you get just this big empty cabinet here in the front with a little key leash in the top part. I appreciate that it's like higher up and it's not too long. Sometimes like where your keys hang, they are like completely in the way of everything. You can use this as a place to attach things, to conceal things. There's a few places where you can do that. I just wish there was some organization already built into it, but I get it. They're treating this as a blank canvas for people to fully customize how they want to organize things in here. So maybe I just need to get my hands dirtier and go further down that rabbit hole. The zipper pulls, this is an interesting thing with this bag. I have this particularity with zippers, and one thing I noticed is that the zipper pulls were super duper long. I like that the paracord is shrink wrapped at the end. I think that a lot of the subtle design decisions behind this bag are geared towards like these like crazy scenarios that the kinds of people that would be attracted to this bag might fantasize about being in, or maybe they would actually get into those. I don't know, for these like super long zipper pulls, I can see how like you're wearing heavy duty gloves, right? And you're in an emergency situation and you want to like get in and out of the bag, like that's great, right? Like I can just very easily access that. But for when I'm not using gloves, right? I feel like they're a bit too long for my liking. I feel like, especially with PU coated zippers where you get more resistance, with straight up and down zippers, it's not as big of a deal. But here where you're going around a corner, I actually got these zipper pulls and they were tied just to the top part. I looped them around the bottom part just to shorten them. And I personally prefer the zipper experience a lot more that way. Speaking of zipper experience, I think just like there's not a lot of zippers really in this bag. You get the front one and the back one. I shortened these as well. These are both vertical zippers. So despite the fact that they're PU coated, they're very smooth. Just the main compartment, it's a very heavy duty zipper and it's PU coated. So it doesn't glide as effortlessly. I'd say all in all, like an 8.6 Pilgrim churned butter zipper smoothness rating. This one is super duper smooth as well. Just wish those pulls were maybe a little shorter. And then on the back part, you've got this mesh padding. You've got a vertically oriented luggage pass-through here. Bunch of loops, plastic, and nylon webbing for your stuff. And also, I like that you can just glide the sternum strap to where you want it, but then once you have it in position, it does a good job of just staying in place there as well. The buckles that they're using are like the ITW Fastex. Like these are like the sorts of things that aren't like, they don't strike you as being very fancy, but they just look like they'd be like super reliable. You can see that you've got buckles here on the bottom. On one end, you can unbuckle it, right? And if you want to like stash your bag in an overhead compartment or under you and you don't want the straps getting in the way, you can tidy them like that and then like restrap them. But from what I gathered, again, for those of us in this world that are just secretly hoping for a zombie apocalypse and that 1 second of being able to buckle or unbuckle could be your freaking life, right? And you want to just quickly, bam, hit the buckles and let go of your bag in a situation where having it on is gonna be life or death. I'm talking shit right now. I'm sure there's all these other crazy reasons for why you would want that functionality, but you've got that, right? Like, again, going back to the ex-special forces, dude, just waiting for it to happen. And really, really comfortable straps. Here, this is another place where you've got Velcro padding all over, so you can put other things, good place to conceal whatever you might want to conceal in here in case shit happens, or a laptop. Like I said, if you have a smaller like 13, maybe 14-inch laptop, it's pretty effortless to get in and out of, but it is a bit more MacGyverage when you're dealing with something like a 16-inch laptop. Now, moving into the actual bag, it's interesting because this is a very bright orange, and as someone that gets like very overstimulated easily by bright colors, this challenge sailcloth with the grid line patterns, the contrasting like black Hypalon tabs and the red piping around it, it just works. Like, it just works for me. It seems like it would be too overly stimulating, but it's just not all over the bag. And then this is all black here, so I think it helps keep the brightness from the inside of the liner. If this was all orange, then it would be like probably a problem for my corneas. Organization wise, you get three main things. You get this pocket up here, which like the mesh feels fantastic. There's nothing stretchy or soft about it. It just feels like tough as nails, and it's translucent so you can see what's in here. Just wish there was a little bit more of that on the outside for quick and easy access to smaller things, but whether it's like AirPods, charging brick, good place for a passport, probably like the safest place for it. The other like pockets in here are just like way too big. And then you'll notice you have two other compartments here, so you can fit a water bottle. There's no external water bottle holders in this bag, and while I'm one that typically like prefers external water bottle pockets, I think as long as you're giving me a dedicated place for my water bottle where it's not gonna be like moving around freely in the bag, I'm cool with it. There are some bags like naturally when you put a water bottle, like this is a 32-ounce hydro flask, it's gonna cannibalize some of that main compartment space, but the bag itself is already so spacious, both vertically and you've got good depth as well, that I feel like I still have plenty of usable space in what I would need for a bag this size. So it's not the end of the world. And then on the other pocket, you can throw tech pouch in here. This would be a good spot for a tech pouch, unless you want even more easy access to your tech pouch. And then in that case, the front compartment, I'll throw in like the Evergoods Cap 1 in here so you can see how it fits, as well as like a pretty packed out Peak Design tech pouch, their small version as well. And then on this side, here you can feel also like got Velcro. I mean, freaking Velcro everywhere, man. On the bottom, trying to think, I'm sure there's like some clever attachment that you could put here in the bottom where that Velcro is, where you can have things that stand up. And then this is the laptop accessory, which like honestly, like this has to be like the strongest Velcro I've ever felt. I'm not gonna like fully undo it, but as you can see here, this guy right here is actually removable, the thing that covers the laptop, which is actually really nice because usually I don't end up using it. Like my ideal scenario for a laptop sleeve is that it's snug enough in there that I don't need to worry about using something like this. I'll just leave it on here so you can see it, but my 16-inch MacBook Air is definitely more than snug enough in there. And then yeah, you also get a pen sleeve, a really well constructed pen sleeve. I like that it's Hypalon. Oftentimes you get these like stretchy laptop sleeves, and you get like these stretchy pen sleeves. Like this one just feels like your pen is super duper secure in there. But like the nitpick that I talked about with the laptops, it's just because the zipper is so far forward and you've got all this fabric here, especially when you're dealing with a bulkier laptop, it just becomes a little trickier. You typically have to like pull back the fabric to get in and out of your laptop. And then the other thing is that while I appreciate the fact that you have the flexibility of having it or not having it, where me personally, I would just never take it off because laptop is a part of my everyday carry setup because of like what I do for a living. And it just $55 feels like a bit of a psychological barrier, especially in the sense that the bag is already 300 bucks. And while yes, when you don't get it, you're like technically saving money, but I don't know, I think if it was like $35 to $40, I think within that, it just would feel like, okay, it's not excessive, but 55 just feels like a lot of money for essentially what you are getting here. But you already have a dedicated place for your laptop. So unless you want this to be like where you put your tablet and you have your laptop back here or vice versa, then I don't know if you really need it. That's pretty much it. Like, final thoughts. I think this is definitely a bag that will attract maybe like the GoRuck type persona, but it's like a more refined version of it where it doesn't look and feel as overly tactical, with it still being like a bag designed for people that are like tactily minded, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. I think it's a bag that is better suited for people that have larger frames, taller people specifically, given the overall height of the bag. So for people that are very rough with their bags, they want something that is like a tank that they'll be able to beat it up and have for a very, very long time. It is great in that sense. And then there's also just not as many bags. Really, there's no bags that look like this, obviously, that also give you that blank canvas for customizing it, modding it with all of the Velcro variations for attachments that you could have, where the world is truly your oyster. And if that is your personality type, where you'd rather do something and create your own experience rather than relying on the designers of the bag to choose that for you, then I think it's a great option. I think anytime you jump into the $250, really the $300 range, when there's already so many backpacks that are like $200 that are already so premium, you truly are in the world of diminishing returns. So I think, yes, cost to value, maybe it's not going to be like the greatest bag out there, but what I can tell you is looking at every single detail, the construction, the materials that they use in the bag, like the liner, for example. Usually liners are an afterthought for bag brands, but like using the Challenger sailcloth in there, I can't think of a single place where they could have gone more premium or more overbuilt. So I don't think it's like a ripoff per se, but I think for anyone that's looking for the most bang for their buck, this is not going to be the bag for you. But yeah, other than that, it does check off a lot of important boxes for me. It stands on its own like an absolute champion, regardless of what you have in it. It's very, very comfortable. It has a look that both blends in, but also stands out because it's almost like too minimal. It's so minimal, it's like, holy shit, look, like there's like so little going on, which I appreciate from a novelty standpoint. But yeah, I'm very curious for anyone that has owned both the 2025 refresh version and one that was like made in the US, like any changes that you have felt have been positive or negative, like overall thoughts on this bag, and like how do you make the most of it from customizing it, modding it, to really making it your own. But yeah, with that being said, best of luck and cheers.